You can handle struggle when it has a clear shape. You can handle starting from zero. You can handle learning. You can handle being unknown. What breaks people is the almost promotion, the almost deal, the almost client, the almost raise, the almost month where you finally breathe, the almost season where it finally turns. Because the closer you get, the more your body starts living as if it already happened. You begin rearranging your mind around the new reality. You start speaking to yourself from the future. You loosen your grip, just a little, because you think the pressure is ending. And then it slips. Not always as a dramatic collapse. Sometimes it's just a delay. Not yet. Next quarter, we'll revisit. We're pausing hiring. We're waiting on approval. Let's circle back. We loved it, but the budget changed. The market shifted. Now isn't the right time. And suddenly you're back in the hallway again, holding the same dream, staring at the same door, wondering why life keeps doing this to you. So here's the question that changes the interpretation before you turn it into self-hatred. What if success keeps slipping away because you're not being denied? What if you're being held in a threshold, a corridor of time where the old structure can't come with you, but the new structure isn't ready to hold you yet? Because the hallway is the part nobody respects. It doesn't photograph well. It doesn't earn applause. It doesn't feel like progress, because it doesn't give you the only proof modern culture trusts: immediate results. The hallway just gives you pressure. Pressure to stay consistent when nothing is rewarding you. Pressure to keep believing without becoming delusional. Pressure to hold your dignity when you're tempted to discount your worth just to make something happen. Pressure to keep working without losing your soul to desperation. And in wealth, desperation is the most expensive emotion on earth. It makes you take bad deals. It makes you accept the wrong clients. It makes you sell your time too cheap. It makes you stay where you're underpaid, because at least it's familiar. It makes you abandon long-term strategy for short-term relief. It makes you confuse motion with progress, because progress is quiet right now, and quiet feels like death. So you start asking the most painful question a person can ask about their money life. What's wrong with me? Maybe I'm not disciplined enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I don't have the right connections. Maybe I'm not meant for more. Maybe I should stop hoping. Maybe I should settle. But the real injury isn't only the delay. It's what the delay makes you believe about your worth. Because if you've been in the corridor long enough, you start feeling embarrassed by your own ambition. You start talking yourself out of what you want. You start calling your dream unrealistic, so you don't have to feel the sting of waiting. You start shrinking your desire, so you can claim you don't care. And deep down, you know that's not peace. That's surrender wearing the mask of maturity. You're not tired because you want more. You're tired because you keep getting close enough to taste it, and then being forced to swallow air again. You've probably tried to fix this by becoming more intense. More hours, more output, more pressure, more posts, more pitches, more applications, more proving, more hustle like a prayer. And the problem with that is not that effort is bad. The problem is what happens to your nervous system when you treat time like an enemy. Time is not always resistance. Sometimes time is refinement. Sometimes time is the part of the process that makes the next level sustainable instead of short-lived. But nobody wants to hear that when they're paying bills and their life feels paused. Nobody wants poetry when rent is real. Nobody wants myth when the numbers are tight. So let's say it plainly. Thresholds are not romantic. Thresholds are the season where your life tests whether you can hold what you keep asking for. Not because life is cruel, because wealth is weight. More money means more responsibility, more visibility, more decisions, more pressure, more potential loss, more people pulling on you, more expectation. The next level doesn't just upgrade your lifestyle. It upgrades what your nervous system has to tolerate. So if you keep getting close and then getting delayed, one possibility is that your life isn't rejecting your success. It's building the internal structure required to survive it without self-destruction. And that's why the corridor feels like being punished. Because you want the result, but the corridor is asking for a different kind of strength. Steadiness. Not the loud strength of pushing, the quiet strength of staying whole. There's a name for this kind of time in the Prophecy Pulse Library. Temporal Threshold Cycles. It's the lens that explains why the most pressurized part of your wealth journey often isn't the beginning. It's the middle, the liminal stretch, the delay before expansion phase where you can't go back to being who you were, but you don't yet have the stable proof that you're becoming who you're meant to be. Threshold cycles show up in money as stalled promotions, delayed launches, slowed sales, clients who hesitate, contracts that take forever, unexpected expenses right when you are about to breathe, opportunities that appear and then pause, seasons where your effort stays high, but the payoff goes quiet. And it's not always because you did something wrong. It's often because thresholds compress you into clarity. They force you to look at your foundation, your pricing, your offer, your skills, your network, your savings, your boundaries, your relationship to risk, your relationship to being seen, your relationship to rejection. They pull the weak spots to the surface, not to humiliate you, but to make them visible before the weight increases. That's why this kind of time feels personal, because it touches everything you built your identity on: competence, control, momentum, reliability. In a threshold, those things don't always work the way they used to. And your ego interprets that as failure. But threshold cycles aren't failure cycles. They are transition cycles. And transition cycles always feel like instability while you're living inside them. Because you're moving between states. And between states is where certainty dies first. The corridor is the place where you stop being protected by the old story. The old story might have been, if I work hard, I will be rewarded quickly. Or, if I'm good enough, things will happen on my timeline. Or, if I prove myself, nobody can deny me. Or, if I stay busy, I'll stay safe. Threshold cycles break those stories, and that's why they hurt. They don't break you to punish you. They break you to free you from agreements that would collapse under the next level anyway. Threshold understanding is ancient because humans have always noticed that the middle is where people change. Mythic structures across cultures don't center the hero's transformation in the beginning. The beginning is departure. The transformation happens in the corridor, the wilderness, the desert, the long road, the dark night, the in-between space where the old identity cannot survive unchanged. Initiation rites carried this same architecture in lived reality. A person was removed from the familiar, held in liminal space, stripped of old roles, tested, and returned with a new identity. The liminal stretch was not treated as a delay. It was treated as the mechanism. Ancient timing philosophies understood that not all time is productive time. Some time is compressive. Some time is purifying. Some time is the slow reshaping that allows the next season to actually hold. When you apply that ancient intelligence to wealth, you stop asking why the corridor exists and start asking what it's doing. Because you can see the same pattern in the real world with frightening consistency. You can see it in creators and writers who reached the edge of breakthrough and were rejected repeatedly before the door opened. J.K. Rowling's early rejections are famous now, but what's often missed is the threshold logic. Rejection was not only external resistance, it was the corridor that forced endurance, refinement, and commitment to the work before the scale arrived. The corridor didn't just delay success. It forged a nervous system that could stay standing when the whole world started looking. Threshold cycles often build capacity for visibility before visibility arrives. You can see it in companies that were almost gone right before they became iconic. Airbnb's early story includes periods where traction was thin and survival required uncomfortable adaptation. Whether someone loves the company or not, the pattern is clear. The corridor forced creative restructuring, not because the founders were cursed, but because the model needed to evolve to hold scale. Many businesses don't fail because the idea was bad. They fail because the corridor required adjustments the founders refused to make. Threshold cycles expose stubbornness disguised as conviction. You can see it in career life too, where people hit the almost promotion and then get stalled. And the stall reveals what the next level actually demands. Sometimes it demands negotiation and boundaries because you've been doing the higher level work at the lower level pay. Sometimes it demands visibility because you've been excellent but hidden. Sometimes it demands leverage because loyalty alone is not a strategy in systems that budget by necessity, not by fairness. The corridor is where you learn that being indispensable isn't the same as being valued, and that lesson is painful, but it prevents future exploitation. You can see it at the economic level as well. Industries move through contraction and expansion, and people interpret a contraction season as personal failure when it's often a collective corridor. Hiring freezes, budget tightening, cautious consumers, delayed approvals, risk-averse leadership, shifting markets. A threshold economy forces individuals to refine, build buffer, increase skill leverage, diversify income, tighten offers, become more strategic. It's not a moral test. It's a timing pressure. Threshold cycles are where many people's old plan stops working, not because they're incompetent, but because the environment is asking for a new plan. And you can see it personally in the way your nervous system responds to receiving. Some people get close to a raise, a new contract, a bigger client, and then sabotage by underpricing, overpromising, or bailing at the moment of commitment. Because the next level triggers fear of being seen, fear of being responsible, fear of being held to a higher standard, fear of disappointing people who are used to the old version of you. The corridor exposes that fear, so it can be integrated. If it isn't integrated, it will show up later at a higher cost. This is why your success keeps slipping away. Because you're not just trying to get money, you're trying to cross into a life that requires a different self to inhabit it. And the corridor is where that self is formed. The question becomes, how do you move through the corridor without letting it deform you? Because some people cross thresholds and come out sharper, steadier, more dignified. Others cross and come out bitter, frantic, self-abandoning, willing to accept anything just to stop feeling delayed. The difference is not talent. The difference is how you respond to time. The first adjustment is to stop making delay mean no. In threshold cycles, delay often means not yet stabilized. That doesn't mean you wait passively. It means you stop treating the quiet as a verdict. You stay in motion without panicking. You keep building without begging reality to move on your timeline. The second adjustment is to find what the corridor is asking you to refine. Threshold time is precision time. It tends to expose one or two weak links, unclear value, leaky boundaries, dependence on one income stream, underpricing, lack of buffer, lack of visibility, lack of skill leverage, lack of recovery capacity, lack of emotional regulation around money. When you stop screaming at the delay, you can actually see the weak link. And once you see it, you can build. The third adjustment is to protect your dignity while you wait. This is huge. The corridor tempts you to take the wrong deal just to end the feeling of almost. It tempts you to discount yourself, accept disrespect, overpromise, undercharge, beg for approval, stay in extractive systems, say yes to what drains you, because at least it's movement. But movement that costs your self-respect is not progress. It's debt. In thresholds, the fastest way out is often refusing the deals that would trap you longer. The fourth adjustment is to build one stabilizing structure that makes you less desperate. A buffer, even small. A second lane of income, even modest. A skill upgrade that increases leverage. A clearer offer. Cleaner terms. A better pipeline. A consistent outreach rhythm. Something that tells your nervous system, we are not helpless in the hallway. Because helplessness makes you impulsive. Stability makes you strategic. The fifth adjustment is to practice holding your identity steady without external confirmation. This is the hardest one. Threshold cycles are where your future self is born, and future selves are fragile in the beginning. They don't have proof yet. So you must become someone who can keep showing up without applause. Someone who can keep choosing what's aligned, even when the results lag. someone who can hold faith without becoming delusional, someone who can endure without hardening into bitterness. This isn't motivational, it's practical, because when the door opens, it opens fast. And if your nervous system is unprepared, you'll fumble what you begged for. You don't need more intensity. You need more steadiness. The corridor doesn't respond to begging. It responds to maturity. When you live these adjustments, something shifts internally before your bank account changes. Before, you lived in a cycle of hope and collapse. You would get close, then panic, then overwork, then feel rejected, then bargain with yourself, then shrink. You measured your worth by immediate reward. And when the reward delayed, you started negotiating your dreams down to something you could stop grieving. After, the inner climate changes first. You feel calmer because you stop treating the hallway like a verdict. You feel trust returning because you keep agreements with yourself even when results are quiet. You feel clarity because you stop scattering your energy and start refining what actually matters. You feel self-respect because you stop taking deals that require you to betray your value just to feel chosen. And then, when the door finally opens, you don't enter it like a starving person. You enter it like someone who belongs there, because the corridor didn't just delay you, it trained you. Transformation is internal first, and wealth becomes sustainable when the person receiving it is stable enough to hold it without imploding. That's the hidden gift of threshold time. It doesn't only bring you to the next level, it makes you the kind of person who can live there. If you're honest, where does the corridor show up in your wealth right now? Delayed promotion, stalled clients, quiet sales, approvals taking forever, or fear that you're running out of time? What is this threshold forcing you to refine? Value clarity, boundaries, buffer, skill leverage, or your ability to stay steady without immediate proof? The breakthrough isn't delayed because you're unworthy. It's delayed because the next level is heavy. And life will not hand you weight until your nervous system stops mistaking desperation for devotion. If this episode named what you've been living, share in the comments what your almost looks like right now, and what you're choosing to refine instead of panic. Subscribe for more Prophecy Pulse episodes that turn money confusion into pattern recognition, so you can build wealth that arrives with steadiness, not self-erasure.